Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll get notified of each new video as they come out.
Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival. And today I want to talk a little bit about water filters. And specifically, I'd like to talk about water filters that use hollow fiber membrane technology. And this is one such filter right here. And at first, when they first came out, I thought, man, these things are awesome. And I really liked them. And then as I used it more and I got to know, a little bit more about them, I started to have some doubts about their efficacy for long-term prepping. And here is the reason why. There's a couple of things that these things are highly susceptible to, okay? Number one, and this is even straight off of the company's website, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but you can go and look for yourself and see it. But they basically recommend that if this filter ever is ever in freezing temperatures, then you should discard it and get another one. Okay, so for a lot of people, who live in climates where it gets to freezing, that's kind of a problem because basically, if you put this in the trunk of your car in your get home bag or something along those lines, or in a bug out bag at a retreat location, or just some other kit somewhere where if it's stored in an area that isn't continually climate controlled, like maybe a shed or a barn or something along those lines, then if this has ever had water in it and it gets frozen, the company says you should throw it away and get a new one. Okay, and the reason is because you can't ever empty this thing of water completely, and it's also sealed. And I actually cut this one apart, and I'm going to show you guys what it is on the inside here in a second. But the thing is once it freezes, you can't get the water out of these little tubes. And so the water will expand and it can develop cracks in these little tubes. And then you won't know with certainty that your water is getting filtered appropriately because there's no way to check it. And so that's one issue with them that I don't like. Okay, and if you live in an area where it never freezes, this might not be a problem for you. It may not ever be an issue. But for me, I live up where it freezes, and that's kind of an issue. So the other thing is on the flip side of that coin, these little tubes that I'm going to show you here in a second are made of, I don't know what the exact material is, but you could call it like a rubberized material or something along those lines. And after time, and I've had this one for about 2 years, maybe 3 years, and it's not been in a temperature controlled environment. It's been in my barn, and so it gets pretty hot in there in the summertime. And so these tubes start to dry out and they start to become a little bit more brittle. So if you're going to use this type of filter, my recommendation would be that you replace it at least once a year. Okay? And that's just because there's no way to know if you've developed cracks in these little tubes. And so for me, that's why I like something like a Katadyn Pocket water filter. Now, it's like more than 10 times the cost. Okay? It's expensive. These are like almost $300 each. But water filtration for me as a prepper is a big deal, and I want something that is going to be heavy duty and that is going to be field repairable, that I can look at and I can inspect, or not necessarily repairable, but field inspectable at least, and that's going to be pretty heavy duty and it's going to work really, really well. If you notice these parts, these are all the parts that come to the pocket. There's almost nothing that can fail on it. You can take it apart, you can dry it out, and I do want to make the point that every water filter is susceptible to freezing and cracking. If you don't get it dried out good, then you could have the same issue with any filter. Okay, but the reason I like the Cated in Pocket is because I can take it apart, I can wipe it off, I can blow out the center, the center hole. I can wipe this off, I can set it in the sun, and I can let it dry out before I pack it up. Okay, I can wipe out the center of this, I can wipe out all the edges, and I can get virtually all the water off of this thing so it isn't a problem. All right, and I can also take a look at it and I can inspect the filter to see if there are any cracks or anything like that, if it's got any looser, if there's any change in the condition of it. Okay, so this really isn't an ad for any water filter in particular. It's really just talking about if you're going to have a filter, to me it makes sense that you should get one that is field inspectable and that you can take apart and you can dry out. That way, if you're going to be in freezing temperatures, you don't have to worry about freezing and cracking and that kind of thing as much. So this is just why I like this one, because it's very simple. It only has a couple of O-rings. I think it's got 3 O-rings and the filter, and that's it. And it'll go a long time. I don't remember, like 10,000 gallons or something along those lines. But if it gets clogged, you just take a little Scotch-Brite pad and you just wipe it off. And that's it. I mean, it's very, very simple to use, but it's expensive. Okay, it's a lot, and I recognize that. It's just that to me, it's just built better and more usable in a wider variety of situations, I guess. So, okay, so let me put this back together here, and I'm going to change the camera angle, and I'm going to show you guys a close-up of what these hollow fiber membrane filters look like and why it's so concerning to me. Okay, so here we have the filter, and what I did is I just took a coping saw and I just cut it in half so that we could take a look at what this thing looks like. All right, let me scoot this back a little bit. Okay, so this is the filter cartridge. What they have here is it's got all these little holes. Let me see if I can get it to, and that's where the water comes out. The water's forced in on this side. Let me take this thing apart here. Okay, so the water comes in on this side here, and then it's forced basically through the membranes in the tube, and then it comes out on this side. All right, now these tubes here, and this one, I think this is one of the older ones that you used to be able to take apart. The ones that they have now, I don't think that you can take them apart, and even if you could, the filter cartridge is still sealed up, and there's no way to inspect all these little micro little tubes. Okay, so these tubes, I want you to see how easy these things break. You just give them a little pull here and it snaps off. All right, so if any one of these little tubes develops a hole or a crack or anything like that in it, then you are not necessarily getting safe water, because the bacteria or viruses or whatever the case may be, can get through there. The protozoa, cysts, and all that kind of stuff. So see how easy that breaks? These are, it just doesn't take anything to break these. Okay, so you can see why the company would recommend that you replace it if it ever gets close, or to where it's in freezing conditions. All right, now mine, like I said, it's about 3 years old, and you can feel that these little rubberized things have started to lose their elasticity. All right, they're not completely brittle, but I mean, see how easy it comes apart. And so imagine after 5 years or 10 years, just how much more brittle these things are going to be. Okay, so that is why I don't like these. They just worry me because I can't guarantee that the water that I'm getting out of them is completely safe. If they get brittle, and because it's been in a hot garage or in a hot car, in a get home bag and in the trunk, and it's gotten up to 120 plus degrees or something along those lines, then there's just no real guarantee at all that these things haven't become brittle, and the problem comes when you go to backflush this. You go to backflush it, you basically are taking clean water and you're putting it down through this part of the membrane, through the holes, and then you're forcing it out at the bottom of the tubes to clean everything out. Okay? Now, if these things could come brittle and you're pushing really hard on that pump, okay, it comes with like a syringe type pump, then it could easily break those and you wouldn't know it. So then your water filter is screwed. And I've read some reports online where there's been problems with testing with these, especially when they're in more extreme climates and in areas where the people who are using them were just trained, and all those kinds of things. But to me, it's I know it's a cheap option, and they're very attractive to most preppers. But I think you're really taking a risk with your water purification. Okay, guys, so that is just my thoughts on these hollow fiber, or what is it? Hollow fiber membrane water filters. They are a really good price, and I know a lot of people use them, and so I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate because everybody has something invested in the water filters that they buy and all that kind of stuff, and I'm probably the same way to a certain degree. I just like something that's heavier duty, and that will work pretty much all the time, no matter what. And at least if it doesn't work, I can take it apart and look at it and figure it out why. Because water filtration is an important aspect to me. It's something that we really should take seriously. And I don't think there's anything wrong with these. If you were going to buy them once a year or something along those lines, or if you live in a moderate climate where it doesn't get too hot or it doesn't get too cold, it's really not going to spend any time, in an environment where it's frozen after you used it, or it's not going to spend any time in a really hot environment where these things could get, even more brittle and become easier to be damaged. So that's I guess all I have to say about this. I just wanted people to know my thoughts on it, because I've talked about it in other videos and never really fully explained it, never really showed you what the problems are, and so I just kind of wanted to go through it all the way. There's just too many issues that can potentially go wrong with these things, I think. And in a life or death situation, whether it's a wilderness survival situation or just a prepping disaster or whatever the case may be, you don't want to have to deal with worrying about if your water is safe or not. So I'm like I said, I think they might have a place somewhere in the prepping world, just as long as you understand their limitations. And I'll put a link to both of these down in the description on Amazon. You guys can take a look and learn more about them for yourselves. I also like the MSR Guardian, I believe. I think that's another ceramic filter that you can take apart, and it's got a pump style on it. I haven't personally owned one of those, but they look like a good filter to me. I do have a Katadyn or Katadyn, whatever you want to call it, a Hiker Pro and a Hiker, and those both work really well. And those are a glass membrane type technology. They're a little different and they're cheaper. They're only about $80, and those work pretty well. You can take those apart and inspect them and stuff too. They take a little longer to dry out than like a ceramic filter or whatever, but and to get totally dry, but they're not as susceptible to the freezing issue either, unless you just had them really soaking wet or something. Trying to think of what other ones are out there that are good. I personally don't like the Life Straws either, really kind of for the same reason as I don't like these. And with the Life Straw, it's just got such a limited capability. I don't really see the value in those. Again, I know that's a real popular one for a lot of people, but I've spent a lot of time using water filters in the woods, and to me, having a pump style, again, is field inspectable, that you can take apart if something goes wrong or gets clogged or whatever the case may be, is really the best way to go. That's just my opinion. You spend less time at the water source, you pump your stuff up, and then you can go and you can fill a container, however big, 3 liters, whatever the case may be, and so you don't have to continually be stopping and sticking your Life Straw in a puddle or putting dirty water into another water bottle and then squirting it into your mouth, or something like that, where you're running the chance that you could get contaminated water or forget about it because you're getting dehydrated or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and feel free to hate on me if you guys want, but I think there's some real vulnerabilities here with these things, and I just think that you guys should know about it. So anyway, guys, as always, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.